Okay, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, the regular village council meeting for the village council Forest Park will come to order. This is our Monday, April 14th meeting. We begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Mike's not working. I wonder if somebody turned something off.
Is that mic working?
Hello, hello. No, it's not.
Testing, testing.
Check, check.
Okay, so we'll use our outside voices for this evening. I'm clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Maxim. Here. Commissioner Nero. Here. Commissioner Mellon Rogovin.
Here.
Commissioner Vogt.
Here.
Mayor Hoskins.
Here. Okay, approval of the minutes from the March 24th regular meeting of the council. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Maxham. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion?
Mayor,
Madam Clerk.
I just want to mention that when I gave out the ordinance numbers last meeting, they were wrong, so I had to correct them in the minutes. Just letting you know, I corrected them.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any further question or discussion on the minutes?
No.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Maxim.
Aye.
Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Rogovin.
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt. Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. Any public comments this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, there are no formal communications tonight. There are no department reports. We're at bills by resolution. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Be it resolved by the Council of the Village of Forest Park, Cook County, Illinois, that we dispense with the reading of the individual bills inasmuch as each department head has approved and signed bills in the following aggregate amount for their respective departments. Refunds and allocations, $2,376.50. Public Affairs, $28,807.62. Police Department, $5,979.91. Community Center, $9,869.90. Accounts and Finance Clerk's Office, $223,808.23. Accounts and Finance Fire Department, $4,409.24. Department of Health and Safety, $7,680.62. Streets and Public Improvements, $99,199.85. Public Property, $29,431.70. Seizure, $2,055.21. Federal Customs, $49,235.79. Federal Customs, $87,290.85. TIF, I'm sorry, Federal Customs is $49,235.79. TIF, $87,290.85. VIP, $28,398.22. Water Department, $1,237,929.13, for a total of $1,816,472.77.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, is there a motion to adopt the resolution on the bills?
Yes, I will make that.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Maxam. Is there a second? Okay, it's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxam,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero, Commissioner Mellon Rogovin,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt, Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is Resolution R-35-25.
Okay, Commissioners, there is no unfinished business before the council tonight. Moving to new business, the first item is a presentation by Burke Engineering.
Thank you, Mayor. Great to be back here to present for the Jackson Boulevard Water Reservoir Pump Station. John Crusoe, who's the head of our mechanical electrical department, and alongside him is Lucas Sharp, who was here last time as well. So the purpose of this presentation is to follow up on the March 10th meeting and provide some additional information for potential new sites that we're considering, which is the Altenheim site and the CTA site. So in front of you here, there's a location map which shows the existing site at the corner of Jackson and Des Plaines. And then we refer to site 1 as Altenheim and site 2 as CTA, just going left to right on the page. So brief recap on the existing site. There is an underground reservoir, which is partially underneath the community center. There are some structural issues noted that were noted in the previous presentation. We haven't observed any changes in the last month or two, so everything's pretty much the same. Site 1 property. This area in orange kind of delineates the area that we're considering for potential water reservoir. And this is a portion of the Plata survey we had identified in various different colors and acreage potential uses. You'll see on the left in green, we're referring it as area B. There's area A immediately south of the current building. We have C and D, which is the orange and blue on the east side of the building, which are considered for potential path locations and ComEd easement. And then the bulk of it is the area E, or the purple or fuchsia color in the middle. And then at the far south end, we have the areas that we would be considering for the water reservoir, which is area F in yellow, which is 1.13 acres. And then there's also this little sliver of this light green, which is area G, which is 0.13 acres that would be part of the site improvement for the water reservoir. Further ado, hold on a second. We're gonna jump into a quick video of what potential improvement at site 1 would look like. So this is a little flyover. We're starting coming up Van Buren, entering into the site. You'll see that there's a parking area. We have 2 1 million gallon reservoirs on the west side, and those can be oriented in different locations. They can be east and west instead of north-south. On the right-hand side, you'll see a little pump station building, and you'll see Van Buren Street. And then farther on the right, as it kind of pans around, you'll see the residences at the Grove. And then all the way in the back is the Altenheim site on the back of the screen there. There's a lot of opportunities to install some storage within this little footprint. We have some bins shown on the right-hand side of this image right here in that parking lot, and there would be ample space for several public works vehicles. What we're showing as it starts to pan out a little bit is some healthy screening on the north side of the site. I do want to say that that would not happen on day one. We would build a little bit of an earthen berm and then make a lot of plantings that would grow quick. But this would be something that you could expect maybe towards 10 years after planting all those trees, you would have that sort of coverage on the north end or screening, if you will. And so I have several pictures of it just to kind of slow things down and talk through them. So again, this is that same option one layout that we saw at the last meeting. You have the two reservoirs on the west side of the site. And we can move those all around. There's nothing about those being on the west side. Those could be on the north side. They could be on the south side of the lot. We just started with this as an option. So this photo here, you're on Van Buren and you're looking west. On the left-hand side would be the entrance to the site. And so what we did at each one of these photos, you'll see this is the full height reservoir right here. And so we gave you an option of if we did a partially buried, so like a half height, so that would be about 15 feet above ground. The full height would be about 30. And then we have a submerged version. You can see the tops on this one. There will be some sort of vent structures, but it could also be more buried. I'm just showing it geographic or so that you can realize where they're at, but that could be covered with grass. Another angle, this would be at the current residences of the Grove. You're on the top floor there. You're looking out your balcony. This is what you could expect to see: the full height, the partial berry, and then the full berry. This is at the north of the site at the current Altenheim, just at grade. And so this shows the screening that we would envision. Again, this is 10 years down the road by the time it all kind of fully matures. But as you'll see, I flipped through three options there and you really can't tell much of a difference. On the far right, you can see some shapes of the reservoir in the background. This would be a little bit higher up at Altenheim, either at the current Altenheim on the third story or any other potential development a little bit closer, 3 stories up. So again, the fully above ground, partial berry, and the submerged, very similar in this if we're able to successfully get the tree coverage that we're envisioning. This is your kind of northwest of that site, having a bird's eye view, showing the size of the 30-foot tall reservoirs. This is the partial berry and then the full berry. And as I mentioned before, that could be covered in grass as well. This is option 2 for that site 1. Oops.
Sorry, trying to.
So I didn't go through and produce all of the images for that. We have that. It's available, for keeping the conversation focused. I didn't want to run through all of those options, but as I said before, we can move these pieces around. We can move those reservoirs around, move the pump station around. So this is just one of many other iterations that could be considered at site 1. So moving forward, we'll look at site 2, the CTA parking lot. And a quick video on site 2. So this is, you're heading east on Van Buren. You're coming up, you're already in the parking lot now, and then it'll raise up and you can see on the left-hand side in the back are the 2 reservoirs, and in the near side in the front foreground is the pump station. In the background, you'll see the railroad tracks, and then in the foreground is Van Buren. And again, we have the opportunity for some sort of storage. You'll see in the back left or the northwest corner, there's some salt bins, other stone materials. It's important to note that all of these sites would be secured. We would have fencing, cameras. So this is it zoomed out a little bit more. So you're looking east again, and another angle over the top showing what that looks like. So now we'll get into some pictures on the existing residences at the Grove. So again, you're on the east side of the building at Residences of the Grove, looking out your window, out the balcony. And this is what you would expect to see for the fully above grade, 30 feet above ground. This is it partially buried, and then this would be it submerged. And again, as I said, that could be fully submerged. You could just have parking or pavement on top of it, but we wanted to show it, the schematic there. This view right here would be if there was some sort of potential development at the current site. So this is what, if you're at the current community center up on the third floor, if they were to have a third floor there, you would see the reservoirs, that's the partial bury, and then this would be the submerged. You'll see the railroad tracks in the foreground. And this is a angle, kind of tough to make out this one, but this would be on Des Plaines as you're kind of looking immediately west. And if we did some screening at the top of the hill with some trees, that would block a lot of those towers. This is, you're in the parking area. I'm sorry, you're on Van Buren looking east. This is immediately outside of the CTA. And in the background, you can kind of see the water reservoirs there. And we have another, oops. Here we go. Here's another option for CTA site, which would have the reservoirs oriented north-south instead of along the railroad tracks. So like I said before, with both site 1 and site 2, we can move those pieces around. Those are not set in stone. So let's go ahead and compare the two sites real quickly. Site 1, the pros for the Altenheim site, it's already being used by Public Works, at least a portion of it is. It has access to existing water mains. The site can be shielded by landscaping, and it's large enough for the reservoir and the pump station. The cons for that site, it is adjacent to some future development at that immediately north of it, which would also indicate some potential loss of revenue there. The CTA site, the pros to that, it's close to the existing pump station. So we have a reduced length of main that we would need to run, right? So as I talked about before, our feed from the city of Chicago runs along Jackson. It goes directly into the current site. So for us to move to the Altenheim, you would have to extend that piece along Van Buren to get to Altenheim. The cons with the CTA site, there are some soils that would need remediation. So any of the dirt that we dig out for a partial bury, full bury, or even with the above ground for the footing, that dirt, just the dirt that we're hauling off, would need to go to a special landfill as opposed to your traditional clean landfill. So there's a small surcharge that you would pay for the dump site that is reflected in our costs later. There's potential loss of development revenue at the CTA site, depending on what might occur at that site, and parking revenue. And then there's also the visual impact at that site as well. It's a little bit harder to screen the CTA site.
Mhm.
I just have one quick question.
Yes.
I'm gonna wait till the end, but it relates. For the Altenheimer Pro, site is large enough for reservoir and pump station. I thought the renderings we saw of the CTA also showed a pump station.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The CTA is also large enough
Okay.
for all the same stuff.
Okay.
So that should be on both.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Moving forward, some other considerations. The existing reservoir is 1 million gallons. So as a reminder, that is below, the IEPA recommended storage. So we are upsizing in all of these versions to 2 million gallons total. And we're recommending that that's done via 2 1 million gallon reservoirs for redundancy in case you need to do maintenance on one or the other. Also, something to consider, the community center building assessment was performed somewhat recently. There's about $2 million of improvements that are needed at that site per that recommendation. The pump station building assessment also indicated about $750,000 of improvements needed at that site as well. And then obviously there's the bigger question of what would happen with the Altenheim, the CTA, and the current pump station / community center. So all three of those sites, are kind of intertwined. If you make some moves on one, that opens up space at the other, right? So without further ado, here's the updated cost estimate, right? So this will show the various options of above ground, partial bury, and underground. So the one column shows site one, Altenheim, and again, option one or option two within each of these is the same. For all intents and purposes, how we orient the reservoirs within each site is going to be the same. So Altenheim, $10 million for above ground, 11 if you do partial bury, and that increment is just the haul off of the dirt and the additional foundation required. And then fully underground would go up to 13 million, again, increased structural capacity of the reservoir and extra dirt that has to be hauled off. Site two has those same kind of steps, except for there's a small increase because of the contaminated soil. So those are 11, 13, and $15 million for the CTA site. Any questions on those costs at this point? Okay, so I'm going to move forward to the funding. We talked about this before. IEPA loan is available. That's something that we're pursuing. We've put in for IEPA loan, and I'll talk about that with our schedule. Low interest loan right now, assuming 3%, just for ease of math, a $10 million loan with a 20-year repayment is $672,000 per year. So if we were to do, any increment above that, if you did 11 or 12, that's easy math. We can just times it by 1.2 to get you what your annual payment is. Also, there is the WRDA, which is the Water Resources Development Act. So that's something that the village is currently pursuing. And there's other sources that we are also looking into at the time. So the next steps would be to select a location or lay out a path to select a location. Then once that location is identified, we would need to commence with the design effort and continue to solicit the funding and figure out what the plans are for the existing site, what to do with that. So with that said, I'll lay out a timeline and then we'll open it up to questions here. So we're anticipating sometime in the next 3 months, a decision be made for which location to move forward with. And if it's a location that's not on here, we're happy to consider other stuff as well, but we would ideally have something selected by July 14th. And we're picking that date, that board meeting, because to get the IEPA loan, there are certain milestones that you need to hit, right? And one of those is you need to have a PEID hearing. And then that is done in advance. You would get on this intended funding list, which would be July of 2026. And at that time, you need to have had your design pretty much done so we can use that money. Once IEPA says you have the money, you have a short window to bid it out. You have to bid within 1 calendar year of that and be under contract. The bidding process takes several months. So that means that you kind of have to have the plans ready, within 6 months of being on that intended funding list that we're targeting July 2026. So I skipped ahead a little bit there. So July 2025, the PEID hearing. And then after that hearing, we would start getting into the design a little bit more. We would submit our project plan for approval in September 2025 to IEPA. And then we would continue with a detailed design of the site. I mentioned the IEPA intended funding list, July 26th. Fall, we would go through the loan process and then bid February 2027, which seems like a long ways away, but the process for this IEPA loan takes a lot of time. So that all of this said, we would look at a spring 2027 start of construction if we use the IEPA funds and if we have a location identified in the next handful of months. And that would be about a 1.5-year project. So we're looking at fall 2028 completion. And so I'm going to stress this, fall 2028 completion. Until we have it complete, the current reservoir is in service and active. And as we all know, we talked about the condition of it, so hence the urgency to stay on the schedule. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Peppers for a question.
Just out of ignorance, PEID stands for?
Luke, you want to answer that one?
So I'm not the only one here who is ignorant.
It's a preliminary engineering hearing. It's just we provide the preliminary engineering report and it's reviewed by IEPA.
It's feasible. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the hearing is, you'll have a meeting like this for 2 minutes and say, does anybody have any comments on this project? If there are none, yeah, then you move on. It's a formality, but it needs to be done. One acronym I haven't remembered.
So many.
There's so many.
There are.
And Jim, is there a change in the timeline if the Water Resources Development Act money comes in?
Sure. So I believe that they were looking for the contract to be under contract in 2027 is my recollection.
Okay. I'm assuming it's a similar timeline, but I just didn't remember if that would, if that would ask us. Okay,
And with the WRDA,
Yeah.
there would be a local match
Yeah.
to that as well. And I think staff and I had envisioned that the local match would be the IEPA
yeah.
funds. So we
Yeah.
would hope that we would just utilize them at the same time.
yeah, so the timing would be aligned if
Yes.
that worked out. Okay. So I just wanted to make clear that the timing, is pretty much the same no matter where we're getting. The plan is the same.
Yes, unless you had your own local money or there was someone won the lotto and said, I want to buy you guys a water reservoir.
Water
You know,
reservoir.
it's gonna, we're looking at
Yeah.
2027,
Yeah.
2028.
Okay.
And since you budgeted this out, like, is it concrete or is it?
Sure. So
steel or-
all these versions that we have shown are precast concrete. There are other options. John or Luke, do you want to elaborate on all those?
We feel the concrete tanks provide the best value and the longevity for tank construction. There's other options that we can have previously. Bolted metal, above ground tanks. There's the below ground would be truck. Predominantly circular. They call it cast in place, but they basically cast the panels on site and then they tilt them up. And put them together.
Okay.
And so once the site is identified and we can always provide a lot more renderings of what those specific materials would look like.
And the precast can be fully submerged, or would that be switching material?
If you're fully submerged, you'd switch to the structural, so the cast in place concrete.
And that,
Same material that you have right now, which is cast in place concrete.
right,
So they
and
would,
would that drastically change?
I mean, that's
Like in
that's
your-
worked into the prices.
It
that we
is,
have.
okay,
Yes,
I just wanted to
yes.
make sure, and then, do you have any idea, it sort of needs, something like that needs to be inspected every 3 to 5 years, like what that average
Yes,
cost
we-
is?
We do that routinely for other communities. And nowadays they use a remote operated vehicle.
Right.
Basically, that goes in, you don't have to take the tank out of service. That's done, like you said, 3 to 5 years. The tank setup though, this affords you the ability to take one of the tanks out, so put a man inside. 5 to 7 years, so drain that water out. Some of the water pressure holds the debris and some of the deterioration up against the walls. Sometimes you don't get the vision of where.
And that cost is, I won't hold you to it.
$20,000 for a inspection. Tank inspection.
Per tank.
The other option I was gonna say, steel tanks you see a lot of, but those require a paint job every 15.
And then the steel lined with glass, that doesn't go underground, that's not an option for those?
Correct. That does not go underground. What you can do is put a concrete wall underground. So on top of it, so you put that partially,
Take like a
but that would be concrete.
trench, kind of
underground.
Well,
essentially,
yeah, you did.
but you wouldn't be.
Right.
And those require less sort of,
Less maintenance than the painted steel.
Yeah.
footprint, 1.37 acres, assuming both are the same, 1, 2.
Generally, yes, give or take 10%.
Why such a big parking spot? Something that works, it looks like twice the. I don't know if that's just the way it looks like. A lot of parking. Is it necessary? Shrink it?
I mean, that parking area could be shrunk. What we tried to do is give the ability for some storage, right? So there's some material storage out on, specifically on the Altenheim site. And then also give ability to get around the tank for any issues that there might be.
Spare refrigerator, a spare freezer, so that's not necessarily reflected. Might want to build.
I figured there was
And generally what we did with the Altenheim site was there's that nice line with the current plat, right? So we just continued that over and said, let's contain our work within that site, right? So is there an option to bring that down 10 feet, something like that, 20 feet, whatever the number might be? Sure. There's other ways we can kind of move stuff around in there.
Well, Jim, if there's no questions, then thank you for the thorough presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, next item under new business is an order rescinding ordinance number O-19-22, waiving bid and reauthorizing the acceptance of a pricing proposal for the purchase of one fully equipped 2026 Ford E450 wheeled coach ambulance with the Stryker power load. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Maxham. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Vogt. Discussion? All right, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxam.
Aye.
Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Ragovan.
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt. Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is ordinance O-24-25.
Commissioners, the next item is an ordinance waiving the bid and authorizing the acceptance of a software services proposal to manage utility billing with Public LLC. This is a subsidiary of Springbrook. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Maxham. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion. All right, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxam.
Aye.
Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Ragovan.
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is ordinance O-25-25.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, the next item is an ordinance waiving the bid and authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for building code updates services agreement with B&F Construction Code Services. Is there a motion?
Nero make that motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Nero. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Maxim. Discussion. Your mic's not working, but Commissioner Vogt, do you have a question?
Is it?
Oh,
out.
just
It's
online.
working on
On
I
the
understand.
Zoom feed, but it's not, it's not coming out in the speakers
Um,
here.
No, I was just curious, if we could get just a brief overview of like what the code update is. I know this is another waiving the bid. I haven't seen the other two proposals. But so I was just kind of curious, like what it says a review of the code and update of the ordinances, but I didn't know what this was actually tackling.
Yeah, it's, the code update is required. I think it's by June 1st by state. And we're, in order to make that happen, we've got to get somebody on board relatively quickly, because I think the proposal, it said it's going to take them about 3 months to get it done. And that was the fastest. It was one of three. It was the lowest of the three. Personally, I think when it comes to life safety codes, you should be a little careful of how cheap you go, but understanding our financial situation in town, we will, that is the low bid.
Great.
Any other questions? Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is ordinance O-26-25.
Commissioners, next item is an ordinance authorizing the sale or disposition of surplus property from the village. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
It's moved by Commissioner Vogt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mellon Ragoven. Discussion? All right, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is ordinance O-27-25.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, the next item is an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a master agreement addendum with Gordon Flesh Company for the lease and maintenance of a printer copier for Public Works. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Vogt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Melvin Ragoven. Discussion? And there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is ordinance O-28-25.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing the approval for pay request number 3 for the 2024 water main replacement project to Boulder Contractors, Inc. This is for the 400 and 500 blocks of Ferdinand. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Mellon Ragoven. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Vogt. Discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is resolution R-36-25.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioners, next item is a resolution authorizing the approval of pay request number 1 for AMI water meters replacement project with Verigy Central LLC. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Mellon Ragoven. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Vogt. Discussion? Okay, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragoven,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins. This is resolution R-37-25.
Commissioners, next item is a resolution to authorize and approve the execution of a professional engineering services proposal for the 2025 lead service replacement project. This is stage 2, and the agreement would be, the proposal would be from Burke Engineering. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Mellon. Is there a second?
Second.
and seconded by Commissioner Bowles. Discussion. Okay, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragovan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt,
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is resolution R-38-25.
Commissioners, next item is a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a grant application to the Gary Sinise Foundation. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Maxim. Is there a second?
Sure, Nero, second.
And seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion. Okay, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragovan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt,
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye.
This is resolution R-39-25.
Okay, Commissioners, next item is a motion to approve the use of the public way by Roberts West Side for for the annual food aid event. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Been moved- Thank you. So moved by Commissioner Vogt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Commissioner Mellon. Ragovan. Discussion. Okay, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragovan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt,
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. Commissioners, next item is a motion to approve the Rec Board's 2025 work plan. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Vogt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Commissioner Mellon. Ragovan. Discussion. Discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragovan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt, Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. Commissioners, next item is a motion to approve a series of community center trip contracts. Is there a motion?
I'll make.
Second,
Sure, Nero, second.
and seconded by Commissioner Nero. Discussion. There's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragovan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt,
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. Commissioners, the final item under new business on tonight's agenda is a motion to approve travel authorization, excuse me, for the West Central Municipal Conference Lobby Day in May. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Been moved by Commissioner Maxim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Commissioner Mellon Ragovan. Discussion. Okay, there's no discussion. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Maxim,
Aye.
Commissioner Nero,
Aye.
Commissioner Mellon Ragovan,
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt,
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye. All right, Commissioners, that concludes new business for this evening. We're at Administrator's Report.
Just have a couple things to say. I want to congratulate the Forest Park Arts Alliance on the opening of Little Perspectives this weekend on Constitution Court. If you have not gone by, I highly encourage you to go by and check it out. It's a pretty neat art project located at Constitution Court. And if you have seen it during the day, they spoke very highly about going back to see it at night. Different perspective, hence the name Little Perspective. So congratulations to them. Also want to thank the Chamber for putting together the spring wine walk. It was a gorgeous day for all of these events on Saturday. So another record sellout. I think they have about 450 people attend the wine walk on Saturday. And then lastly, on Saturday night, Commissioner Maxim and I had the opportunity to attend the Opportunity Knox Gala. They are very excited about the OK Farm coming to Forest Park. I can't not even tell you how much support they showed us while we were there. The whole fundraising portion of their event was to raise funds specifically for the OK Farm. And they did it was an amazing night. They had 522 people. And, you know, they did a paddle raise, and Commissioner Maxim and I just kind of kept looking at each other, watching the number of people who were consistently raising their paddle to donate to this OK Farm that they have started and are now, you know, planning to move here to Forest Park. So I think that speaks to how special this project is and the support that's coming from this council. So I know, talking to President Phil Carmody on Saturday, he was so appreciative, and just kind of kept telling me there were these little surprises. I did not know that the fundraiser was specifically tied to the OK Farm as opposed to just Opportunity Knocks in general. So to see the amount of support that the people in the room gave financially to this project, I'm really looking forward to sharing with you all their concept, their dreams, and being able to work with all of you on making this come to fruition here in Forest Park. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. Commissioner Maxwell.
Yeah, that was a great event. I had a lot of fun, and it was fun to see how excited everyone was about the farm, which is going to be located on part of our Altenheim property, which is actually what I want to talk tonight about in my commissioner's report. I want to first thank Administrator Antler and Director Stella for taking the time to meet with me to talk so much about the reservoir. I know I had a million questions at the last meeting when it was, brought up, and I had a lot of questions for you guys. And I want to thank Commissioner Vogt for sitting down and talking with me about it as well. And for the commissioners that responded to my email, I was under an exaggerated sense of urgency about how quickly we had to move on the reservoir. And that made me uncomfortable because we're putting it on one of our publicly owned, our biggest publicly owned piece of land. And I had a lot of questions about that first. And really expressed to my fellow council members that I think before we can sort of give away or use a piece of that publicly owned land, we need to sit down as a group and talk about it. And it's been a real struggle. In fact, to this point, it's been impossible to make that happen. And I want to talk a little bit about that because this is really important to me, and it should be important to all of you in this room too. I'm definitely not opposed to using the Altenheim as a potential site for the water reservoir. But I think, when we talk about the farm that we're going to be putting on a portion, and we're talking about selling a portion back to the Altenheim Senior Home, and we're talking about the bike path, and we're talking about all these different parts, I have to stop and say, what's the overall plan here? And it's clear that we don't have one. And to me, that's a real problem. So I repeatedly requested through the village administrator and then on my own that we as a council hold a meeting to have the conversation, or at least the beginning of the conversation. We don't have to decide it, but why can't we sit down and say, here's how we're going to start planning it? But I was told, no, the mayor has to want to have that meeting and he doesn't want to. So I went to him and he was busy, and I said, hey, can you text me sometimes we can get together and talk? And he did not text me times we could get together and talk. And then he didn't respond to my email that I sent to everyone saying, guys, this is really, really important. Can we talk about this? I have no idea how he feels about it, except when I go to Administrator Antler, who also has told me she is interested in us as a council sitting down and having meetings. But again, it's up to him to make that happen. I talked to another commissioner who can speak for themselves. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, who also said, yes, I also want to see this happen, but the mayor keeps rejecting me. And this is a huge problem for me. What's even more concerning is that a few months ago, I was polled to ask, are you ready to go out for an RFP on the Altenheim? And I said, an RFP on the Altenheim, like what can you actually be talking about? Because as a council, we haven't even sat down and talked about this. How can we possibly be ready for an RFP? So my answer was, no, I am not ready for that. And can we please talk about this? So, for months, I've wanted to talk about it as a council, and for months it hasn't happened. And frankly, I think this is completely irresponsible, and it is contributing to very bad government here in Forest Park. And why am I raising this publicly? I know people will ask me this because last time I spoke like this at a council meeting, I was asked, why are you airing the village's dirty laundry? Well, I'm airing it because I couldn't fix this privately, and I don't know how else to make it happen. And I want an answer, and I think the public deserves to know that we are being blocked from having a basic and very necessary conversation about the Altenheim. I think, in this presentation here that, Jim Emilio gave, it made reference to the community center, which needs to be rebuilt. So our public facilities, and it made reference to the Altenheim, which we own and need to build on. And it made reference to the water reservoir. And all these things are intertwined. If we start talking about them and making decisions on them all piece by piece, we're ignoring the fact that we have big decisions to make about things that all that we shouldn't be making in a vacuum. We shouldn't be looking at this separate from this, separate from this. And as a council, we have to start having public discussions so that it isn't me, sending an email to Michelle or meeting with Jessica or talking to Ryan and then saying, well, Jessica said this and Ryan said this. We need to just sit down and do it. And I'm not really sure why we're not. I haven't been given a good answer on that. So I think we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to the residents to have these conversations, and we can't delay it anymore because otherwise everything we're doing and all our planning is completely inefficient. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Maxim. Commissioner Nero?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Maria, I agree. I think it makes it difficult with Open Meetings Acts and emails and trying to get together. So I agree. I think I've talked to Administrator Entler recently. I think it's a good idea. We should all on a couple different things. Number one, on the direction of Altenheim as it sits. What's the future, right? I think we actually all talked about that maybe at a council meeting at some point. So yes, we should absolutely do that. And then as a part of that, right, it's I would be absolutely open to talking about the reservoir, right? It's just so much easier to shoot ideas when we're all sitting across from each other, and it makes it more efficient. So I'm certainly open to that, and I think it's a good idea. Whatever the path forward for that is, I'm all in. Maybe we do one of those little Google Doodles things, or how do we get the meetings going? I mean, we all got busy schedules, right? So it's those seem to work out well. It worked for the budget meeting. And speaking of the budget meeting, I thought the budget meeting went well. I want to thank all of the department heads, of course Rachel and Tish for putting it on, but it was informative. Everyone was prepared and disappointed, no, prepared. And I think that and organized. And I think that is important, right? Coming to that meeting. And I think there was a lot of good ideas that were brought up. There was some action items that were developed, and there's a path forward. And to me, that's a productive meeting, one way or another, right? So I appreciate that. Oh, I have an ask. I'd love to be able to, from an old business standpoint, get the zoning, I don't know, out from under the table and back on the next agenda, if for anything else, so we can move forward. Right? We can't do anything until it comes off the table, and it can't get taken off the table until it goes onto the agenda under old business. And even if it just gets that far, we pull it off the table for some further discussions or more discussion or however that's got to go. But there's a process, and I would really encourage us to start that process sooner than later. I really think we are handcuffing opportunity and development in town. The longer we wait. And so however that looks moving forward, certainly we can have discussions about it. But like I said, the first thing that has to happen is it's got to come back up on an agenda and then be pulled off from there. I think that was it. Oh, and if you're so inclined, I think Honorable Rory Hoskins, our mayor, is having a birthday tomorrow. So reach out and tell him happy birthday. End of report.
Thank you, Commissioner Nero. And yes, I'm having a birthday. Commissioner Melvin McGoldrick.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to wish everyone a happy Passover. Saturday was the first day of Passover. Wanted to just briefly mention that our meeting in Springfield with the Illinois Municipal League was very productive. I know that Commissioner Vogt will mention items about that as well. We participated in a series of updates from the Illinois Municipal League, and it was very inspirational in my mind to hear from several departments, in specifically for me, the Department of Transportation, to hear about the ways that they're working to be more responsive to local municipalities. And I know that Sal is rolling his eyes, but I thought it was interesting. The new leadership has talked about ways that they're instituting directives through departments about how they want to be more responsive in meeting the needs of municipalities. And I thought that was very interesting to hear and important. And then we, of course, met with Senator Lightford and dropped by Senator Don Harmon's office briefly with a packet of information from the village. And it was great that we really appreciated our village staff and the way that they helped us prepare materials to bring to Springfield about the priorities that we wanted to talk to, specifically about the transportation consolidation and the way that the CTA is impacting our first responders. And we talked a lot with Senator Harmon about how our fire department and our police department are responding to calls at the Green Line and the Blue Line. And Senator Lightford was very moved by the information that we provided, and it was very important for us to have that conversation. So it was great to be there and talk to her about that. Like Rachel said, I really loved being at Little Perspectives this weekend and the wine walk. And most importantly, I'm looking forward to heading back to Springfield shortly, going to the WCMC. Just wanted to also pick up on my colleagues' mention of upcoming agenda items. I've appreciated working with Commissioner Ryan Nero in moving forward the discussion on zoning ordinance and providing my input and collaborating with Commissioner Vogt to make sure that we have provided feedback. And I really appreciated being able to provide my questions and specifically Director Glinke's input and the data that he provided me. It was very helpful in my understanding of the work that goes on. There's a lot of times where, as a commissioner, I may understand from what a resident tells me or my own experience as a resident, but that information that I received was very helpful. I provided some additional information that and feedback, and my response was that I think I just needed one more piece of information, and I was ready to talk about it in open session again. So, and move things forward. And I think I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I'm wanting to be a problem solver and a collaborator, and wanting to move things forward so that we can serve the village and its residents. So, we want to facilitate communication and cooperation. And that's what my efforts have been. And so that has been happening. And sometimes making the sausage happens on email and behind the scenes. So, and in my case, it's vegetarian sausage. So, but I appreciate the collaboration and cooperation, and I think it's important to be able to ask those questions and get information. It's helpful. And anyway, so and happy birthday, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Vogt.
Thanks. So yes, happy Passover. And also happy birthday to my father-in-law. I'll get yours at the end, Mayor. But yeah, we Commissioner Mellon Rogovan and I had a nice time in Springfield for the Illinois Municipal League Lobby Day. I won't go over the same information, but I just would like to stress how generous Senator Lightford was with her time and how wonderful her staff was to work with. And I too am looking forward to hopefully going to the WCMC trip down to Springfield. I hear time and time again how important it is to just show up and to just be seen and give support and create those relationships. So I appreciate you going down there with me and carpooling, and I look forward to going in a week or two, a couple weeks. I would like to say that I also share Commissioner Max Ham's frustration with sort of a lack of conversations on some of these really big issues. I know for a really long time, for years, I was pushing to have this building assessment done because we knew we had all of these buildings that were just aging to the point of, I mean, $500,000 Band-Aids and stuff like that. And it just felt, not very thoughtful or thinking about the long term in any of this, and just working in a very piecemeal fashion. So it took a really long time just to get those completed. And I have, been asking and talking with several administrators, now with Administrator Entler, about, finding a time to get everybody together so we can talk about that big picture, which involves obviously sort of dialing it in on the Altenheim, on the community center property, on the CTA property, because the water reservoir is very time sensitive, and we have to address that soon. I would say that just this year, this has been going on for a while, but just in the last couple of months, I've met with Administrator Entler several times. I know she's reached out to you at my request to get those talks about getting a public meeting. I met with the mayor and shared my concerns. I know we had a meeting somewhat recently where you seemed interested in getting something scheduled in the next few months. So hopefully, like, April was a goal, but hopefully that can be soon. Because it has to happen. We obviously want to know what's going on at the Altenheim, and that's been just sitting there with a big question mark on it for decades. So we obviously don't want to rush anything, but we do need to start talking about not only that, but this bigger picture and what these properties look like, and how I know Administrator Entler and I have also talked about department heads working on their space needs assessments. Because to talk about how we're going to use these buildings, we should talk about, I know, the police department, fire. I mean, we know that you all need more space, you need updates. So I share your frustrations, but I do think something is going to happen soon, and I'm hopeful something's going to happen soon on that. And then to address the zoning, I think I had some very specific questions and requests, and I don't feel like those have been met over the few months that this has been languishing. With the recommendations of that not being, or sort of being in direct contrast of our comp plan, I had really hoped to see more community outreach. I know I asked for community outreach, education, letting people really know what these changes mean, especially the R2 and R3, which that's not coming up in any, I haven't really seen that in the paper. I haven't really seen that discussed much, but we're looking at some recommendations for a lot of impervious coverage, and, especially in R3, 0 setbacks of some pretty big buildings. And we just need to check in with that, make sure that is in the community interest, since it's not in, it doesn't really suit the recommendations of that comp plan. And then obviously the stormwater management concerns that we have. So I think, we're kind of languishing here, and we should bring it back up and have that conversation. But I still do have some concerns there. So then I'll get back to the rest of my report. I just wanted to remind folks to save the date for Arbor Day. That's the last Friday in April. So the 25th, we'll be planting our tree at Betsy Ross at 9 a.m. and enjoy a performance by the Singing Sharks from Field Stevenson. And also save the date for our 5th annual community cleanup, Saturday, May 17th. This is going to be our 5th year of bringing members from the community together to help keep Forest Park clean and beautiful. So please save the date. We want a lot of people to show up. We're really excited to have this continuing and really becoming something that I look forward to every year, and I think a lot of people in our community do. And then the Forest Park Arts Alliance Little Perspectives, I also recommend everyone to check that out. Ian Pfaff created an amazing installation, and I want to thank him and I'm sure his family for putting up with all of that work, for taking so much time and energy to share a little bit of his, art and vision with the community. The Arts Alliance, I need to thank them for their continued efforts to bring not only art to our community, but like Administrator Entler mentioned at the ribbon cutting, artists who actually reside in Forest Park. So that's really great to see them celebrating those folks. And I just thank them for their partnership. They're a great example to anyone who is looking to partner with the village. I really appreciate their professionalism and open communication. And happy birthday, Mayor.
I want to thank everyone for participating in tonight's budget discussion, for staff, for putting forth their priorities and laying out very clearly what some major expenses are going to be over the next 3 years. I think most of us work pretty hard to secure resources. I spend a lot of time engaging with external government bodies for the purposes of bringing resources back to Forest Park, whether it's members of the legislature or county officials, in some cases federal officials. As far as the Altenheim is concerned, it's a huge project. The village has owned the property since 2003. Everyone knows that. I was there today with another party, seeking for the billboard. And I've explained to the individual, they wanted to show me the exact site. I said, look, the village is undertaking a couple of things. One is a potential residential development. One is a potential water development. And so, we have to kind of put a hold on your desire to stick a billboard on CTA property next to the Concordia Cemetery. And the point of saying that is that there are a ton of interests in that area. And we're not rushing anything. We're going to have the discussion tonight by their engineer. They kind of laid out our options with respect to the water reservoir, either in Area 1 or in Area 2. We're pursuing additional funding at both the federal and state level to help us complete that project. We don't know 100% whether or not we're going to have the funding, but we continue to pursue it. So in the meantime, there's nothing at all to prevent commissioners from having discussions with each other about what they would like to see, or at least come to some common ground. We can't even make a real estate decision without 4/5 vote of the council. So there's going to have to be some common ground and some meeting of the minds. When it comes to a big discussion in an open setting, we had something of that tonight. We had Burke here tonight. They were there to answer questions. Staff could pose questions to Rachel. Staff could share ideas, not staff. Commissioners could share ideas and observations. You could make some of your preferences known. As far as an RFP, months ago, we printed copies. We printed a sample of an RFP that could be used for a mixed-use residence, because no one on this council has ever voted to issue an RFP. So the idea was to have everyone start thinking about what goes into an RFP. We've never done it. I've never done it. I've worked in economic development, but I've never actually had to issue it. So we put copies of a sample RFP in everyone's box. And that was to get you started on thinking about what you'd like to see. And there's nothing at all to prevent you all from talking to each other about that. You're taking your ideas to the administrator. In terms of a special meeting, I don't know that we are there yet, where we need a special meeting just to talk about ideas. A special meeting, in my mind, would be called when we're close to ready to act or we're ready to make a decision about something, not simply to talk. But if you all feel very strongly about putting something on the agenda, under the commission form of government, I believe that the commissioners can put something right and indicate that they'd like to see something right. I don't know if it has to be an action item, council, or if it's just a discussion. But could you please check that for us? So in the future, commissioners, if someone feels very strongly about a certain topic, talk to each other, tell the administrator, and we can add it to the agenda. But again, I don't know if it requires taking action that night, so council will hear that. But it is a big, everyone can be heard. And we're going to do this openly the way we have done it. We've had an Altenheim committee that met publicly for months. And they shared their ideas. The community had the idea, the chance to share its ideas. Nothing quite happened with that yet. We've talked with the Altenheim board itself because they have restrictive covenants on the plan. And so we want to make sure that anything we plan is not wildly out of line with what they live with, because we don't want to dispute with our neighbors. Right? These are our partners in Forest Park. I'd rather do things in partnership with Altenheim than in opposition. So we can continue to have discussions. When our experts have something to add to us, then we'll bring them back. But there's nothing at all to prevent council members from talking to each other and sharing with with administrator, and at least make some of the sausage start happening done, so that when we are ready to present something publicly. I'm also looking forward to May 6th and 7th for our drive down to Springfield. Hopefully it'll be productive. Tonight's budget meeting has given us a lot of things to ask for when we go to Springfield, another ambulance, emergency funding for our first responders, and a whole host of other things that Forest Park should receive. But of course, there are a lot of pressures on state government. So that concludes my report for the night. Having said that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Sir, Nero will make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Nero. Is there a second?
I will second.
Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Maxim.
Aye.
Commissioner Nero. Commissioner Mellon Ragovan.
Aye.
Commissioner Vogt.
Aye.
Mayor Hoskins.
Aye, we stand adjourned.